Welcome back to Sneaks View. I'm out here all the way in Auburn, Washington. I left Yakima to visit. Who am I with?
You know it, Switchman.
The
Everybody knows me as Switchman, Lamar.
Lamar. All right, so do some real quick questions, and then we'll call it good. All right, so everyone has their starting point, right?
Hmm.
What was well? I'm learning today. I've always known you in the low riding, but I'm learning today that you have your hands in a whole bunch of other style of vehicles.
Yeah, yeah. Wide variety of different vehicles. I mean, a lot of people in the industry know me for the lowriders. Strictly the lowriders. But there's a handful of people that, when they come to mess with me, they realize it's a lot more than just lowriders. When you come to the shop, like even today, you'll come in, you'll see 58 Impala Resto mod. You'll see a 70 Nova race car. You'll see a 4x4 rock crawler, and a handful of lowriders in between that. So it's not just lowriding, but that's what I've become known for is the lowriding industry.
Okay. So what was the your first build? What was the first thing that got you into this atmosphere?
Into the car atmosphere or into the lowriders?
The both. Start
Both.
start with the car and then
Okay.
how you got into low riding.
So the car industry started when I was down south and on the East Coast. 'Cause I was born on the East Coast, lived down south for quite some time, and then came up here. But really, what got me into it was my family was all into racing. So Pro Street, Funny Car, couple of them ran what do they call that? Pro Mod, stuff like that. And so I was a little kid that was out on the track doing tire checks when they would make their passes. They would come back into the pits and they'd want to check the tires. And so me and my friends, we would ride around on our bikes, and skateboards, stuff like that. We'd go out to the parking lot and you would see all the old heads out there with all the hot rods and the trucks and, all the real nice stuff that was out there in the parking lot. So it kind of got me into more of the custom side of things, just outside of the race car thing. So then as I became a little bit older, I started kind of getting more into the custom fab world, which was more like the truck stuff, the mini trucks, full size and stuff like that. And then out here, 2000, 2001-ish, right around that area, is when I really started coming around a lot of the guys that were around the area around here. And it went from just being in love with the race cars and the mini trucks and full size stuff like that to then I started appreciating more about the low riders and just the custom side of things that came with low riding. And there was a few people that looked at it and was just like, this is what low riding is for us compared to what you got going on. And so I started kind of joining all the two worlds together and realized, everybody kind of shares the same objective. When it came to the car world, whether or not you were a trucker, a 4x4, a hot rod, a race car driver, a low rider, they all shared the same thing, and it all was family orientated and came to the car.
That's how you made the connection.
And that's how I made the connection.
So I will say, like I said today, you broke it down to me. But for me, it's always been Malibu's. I always connect Malibu's with you, always. So it's I get it because I see both versions. Like when you did your Blazer,
Okay.
I mean, I'm like that shit is badass.
Yep. The Tahoe.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude. And you went from the was it left side to the right side, right?
Yep. Right hand drive. But that's actually a good example because that shows you both worlds. That shows you the mini truck world and it also shows you the lowrider world. Also with a little influence of JDM.
Yeah.
So
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. So, I mean, just for me, like I said, Malibu was always my connection with you. Like all the time, I was like Malibu, boom, Switchman,
mm,
right? So when I saw that Blazer, I was like, oh shit,
gave you a different
whole
yeah.
different level. So perfect, man. I get, I get it, right? You look at your garage, you love building cars. You've
Mm.
done it for a long time. At what point in time did you make the decision that you could make a living off of it?
I to be honest with you, I never really did. And I'll explain it like this. it was always a hobby, and it still has been a hobby. It just blew up into this so-called business, right? Um, so I don't really consider myself ever like it's a job, it's a 9 to 5. Like most people will say, "Oh, I got a clock on, clock off" type deal. I wake up and this is what I want to do. So I don't really consider it a full blown business like most people will. Yes, it does pay the bills because we got to pay the bills, right? But I don't consider it as a job like most people would.
Even after all the years, there's never days where you're like,
Everybody has those down days, right? But
okay,
the when I get into it and start messing with the vehicle, all that disappears.
it's like
Now,
a
before
rush.
that, you might be, "Oh, I don't want to do this right now," but for the most part, once you get into it, as far as I have anything to say about it, once I get into it, all that disappears and I'm just focused on what I'm doing, and elevating what I can do. So I don't, I have my down days, but at the most part, I ain't got nothing to complain about.
Okay. So when you build these cars, because you have your own style,
Hmm.
is there ever, well, how do you separate? Because every customer has their own idea when they come in here,
Hmm.
and you being an artist, sometimes you want to paint a little extra. So how do you separate that, but also keep your stamp on it?
I guess for me, I find out what the client is looking for, and then I kind of make the adjustments and the tweaks from there. Because at the end of the day, it's your car. But like I'll tell people, it's my baby. Cause you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm raising it and then I'm handing it off to you. So
Has the right morals.
yeah, with the right morals, right? So I guess when you ask that, it's kind of I do what I enjoy doing, and I guess the people that come to me know what they're going to get out of me. So they don't really come with the oh, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, type of mentality with it. They come in and say, you know what, I want it red, black, gray, with a hint of blue. Do you?
Okay.
And you kind of get that free reign with it.
Okay.
But I know at the end of the day, I can't do it as if it was mine. I got to build it to what they, what it seems like they like.
Okay. You just give it that little extra flavor.
Just kind of tweak it a little bit.
So what is the specific when you started the business, right? What skill set was it that you had at first? Was it just the suspension, or did you have suspension, paint, upholstery? Like what did you start with?
I started with suspension,
Okay.
100% suspension, and it started off like I was saying with the race car aspect. So I got to learn how to dial in the uh, four links, and how to get the shocks to react a certain way, how to get the geometry to get a car to come in, shoot down the track in a certain direction, right? So then when it migrated over to the truck scene, it was how low can you get it to go? How drivable are you able to make it on top of that? And it turned from that and then transferred over to the lowriding scene. And what I noticed with the lowriding scene was the suspension worked, but it wasn't set up one particular way to do everything. It was if you want it to be this way, you have to do this, but you can't have that. And I came from a world where no, if you want it to be this way, you also need it to work this way too. So where's that happy medium? So it started with suspension. I kind of went as far in as on the suspension aspect as I could, and then I realized like no, I don't want to just stop at suspension. I want to be able to do paint and box. I want to be able to do upholstery. So I went to school for upholstery. I was around a bunch of painters. Like the first shop that I was working in, Art Peaslon, which rest in peace. he actually showed me. He was like one of the best fiberglasses I ever met in my life, and still to this day. Um, when I say the man can fiberglass, he can lay down some fiberglass, and he would show you like, no, this is gonna hold up. And so I took that knowledge from him and his painting with the candies and the flakes and all that type of stuff, and then I started moving off of that. And then also too, I would notice, okay, well, when a person would come into their shop and say, I want suspension done, but then I'm gonna go take it over here to get the interior done. Well, how is that person doing the interior? So then I say, you know what, I want to learn the interior too. I don't want to just be that guy that you come for the suspension. I want to be able to do it all. And I don't want to be a master of all of it, but I want to be able to sit there and say for myself, hey, when it comes to this car, if I'm building it for myself, I'm building it for another person, I want to be able to say, I know everything that goes into doing every level. So that way I can give you the best. Instead of saying, oh, well, I can only give you the best suspension, but you got to go deal with this kind, and I hope you can do, what you're looking for. So, you kind of pick and choose the people that you put in your circle. So I learned the upholstery, learned the paint and body, really got heavy into the metal work, the rust repair, all that type of stuff, and the welding and stuff like that. So it didn't just, it wasn't just, and it still isn't just suspension, but that's what I'm known for the most.
Suspension. That's true. Again, I've only really known you on the lowrider side, building those hoppers and clearing the measuring stick where the hell I hear. So for me, like I said, coming today, you breaking it down is a whole surprise. But I could see it. Looking out here in your yard, looking right here in the garage, I can see it. How long you been doing this so far?
2000. Well, so as a business, right? 2000, all the way until present day.
Okay. So this is the biggest question, right? When was the moment where you were like, I'm doing it?
That's a hard question to answer.
Because you said you got to pay the bills.
Yeah, you got to pay the bills, right? But everybody got a background, right? So, the honest way that I can say that is I still don't know, because I feel like there's still so much more for me to figure out and to level up in, that I can't say that I already made it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, that's the best way I can really say that.
Okay. Out of all the builds you've built, which one's your favorite? You know what? Since you were in both worlds, give me your best lowrider, then give me your race car or truck, whichever other one you want.
Okay. So the best.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. There's a lot, and there's a lot of different reasons why I like builds over other builds. To pinpoint one, I don't know if I could do it as far as the lowrider goes, because there's a handful of them that I was able to do and be involved in, and then there was a handful of them where I built for myself. And a project's never done, right?
Oh, never.
As much as you want to say it is. And
They're
there's
not.
been times, and people know me for this, is I'll get through something, and then somebody will come and be like, hey, I gotta have it. So I don't get to finish it all the way.
Like, I see ya. See ya.
But hey, I'm not married to none of them, so they can leave, and I can start over and get into another one. But to be honest with you, I'll say when it comes to a lowrider, I'll have to say Redemption, the black and gold Malibu.
Yes, I agree.
That particular car, the more I think about it, I went through the most with that car. It started off one way, and it was kind of I had built several cars prior to that, and that one came up, and like you were saying, I was known for the Malibus, and that one came up, and it started as a derby car. I bought it from a guy way out in the woods, and he used it for a derby car, and built a frame for it, pulled it out, and that was my street car. go out there, tear up the street on the freeway, gas hopping, a bunch of stuff. Probably shouldn't be doing, but was doing it anyway.
It's all right, man.
But
It's off the books. It's off the books.
it wasn't in the U.S. Uh, so the Malibu would have to be the one as far as the lowrider goes because I feel like I probably ended up accomplishing the most with that car. It started off a street car. I sold it. Like, I do a lot of things. I was fortunate enough to get it back in exactly the same condition other than the age of it being gone that
Yeah.
I gave it to the person to. And when I got it back, I felt like I had elevated so much from the day I had built that car because it was about 7 years between the time I sold it and I got it back. And when I got it back, there was a group of us that had this ongoing joke where I would always tell everybody that was in the crew or, friends, stuff like that, that when we were building their cars, I was like, you know what? Hey, we need to do a all gold everything. And because there was only a handful of people at that time that did it. And I was like, yeah, we got to do it all gold everything. Everybody would look at me crazy, like I ain't got no pocketbooks for that. And so when I got the car back, of course, that came back up in the joke. Everybody's on me talking about, oh, remember, you want to do all gold everything. So I said, all right, I'm
Pot of
going to do it.
gold.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Since y'all talking, I'm going to do it. And yeah, that probably wasn't my best choice, but the outcome was great,
It
right?
was great.
Yeah, the outcome was great, but it by far it wasn't my best choice. But so ended up tearing the whole car apart, starting completely over with that car, and then came out being a redemption, as everybody knows, at the Black and Gold Malibu. Went all over the place, got a bunch of magazines with it. So I'll
Wow.
say, as far as low riding, I'll say that's one of my top tier.
So your top ones.
Um, as far as the trucking industry, I'm gonna have to go with the side hoe. And as far as my personal cars, and that's because it was kind of the same scenario. It was I had a Blazer way back like 2004, 2005, and some stuff had happened in life, and I had to get rid of it. And I searched for it for years trying to find it because stuff got back up to par and was putting a little money in my pocket, and I was like, no, I'm gonna get that car back and finish it like I'm supposed to. And come to find out, the person I gave it to ended up having some bad luck of their own, and the car got crushed.
What?
Yeah. So I had a couple clients that I was working on stuff for, and came across this Blazer that I was working for a client. He called me up out of the blue one day and was just like, "Hey, you still interested in this Tahoe?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm definitely interested in the Tahoe. Let's talk about it." So fast forward a little bit, I went to his house and we talked about it, and he ended up blessing me with the car. And so I told him, I was like, I'm gonna do this one up, because he was dealing with some stuff and he needed to get rid of it. And so grabbed it from him, brought it back, and completely ran through it. I mean, changed it because it was originally when he had it, it was on airbag and it was lowered, but it was some basic stuff. It wasn't nothing out of the ordinary. And I decided to go ahead and take that truck and just take it to the extreme that I possibly could, and just integrate everything that I had learned over the years and what I had been dealing with. So with that particular deal, you have the import scene, the JDM scene's a little bit involved in that. The race car scene with the motor and stuff like that is involved in that. The mini truck where it's laid out, 24s, 2415s in the rear, or 2416s in the rear, and the black and gold theme with the pinstriping and the gold leaf, and has the lowrider aspect in it. So it kind of shows you all the
All
genres, yeah,
combined.
all combined in one.
Yeah, because I felt like the redemption and that were, they were the pair.
Yeah,
So I
it,
felt like you just got done with this Malibu, and then that came. You were like, you were still on that mindset.
mm-hmm,
You're like, I'm
mm-hmm.
gonna bring everything from here to here.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it was. It ended up being the twins. You had the strict lowrider, street hopper, kind of showy kind of car, and then we jump into the trucking industry, and it kind of brought it all to one. And so you got to see the best of both worlds with two different cars. And so yeah, I'll definitely say out of those two, those are probably my top tiers as personal cars. I mean, there's a handful of cars I've done for clients. one of my favorites is a gentleman named Sleep. We call him. He got a green 62 that we had finished about 2-3 years ago, something like that. And just the combo itself is just one of those combos that you just don't forget, you know. Um, but like I said, we can go down a whole handful of list of cars that I could pick out and say certain things about. But
Do you have a lot of those images on your Instagram?
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of those on there. There's a lot of those on Facebook. I lost me and when one of my guys were talking about it earlier. I had lost a Facebook page that had a bunch of other stuff on it. Years, I mean, from 2004 all the way up until last year, and I lost that page and all that stuff that was on it. So started all, restarted some stuff, and I got hard drives. I got other stuff on it, but you can definitely see a lot of what we were just talking about on Instagram. There's a lot of those bills on there.
Give a shout out to your Instagram here at the end. You good? All right. So, what advice would you give to someone? Like times have changed, right? Things are evolving, and there's AI, there's YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and so everyone's learning. They're kind of doing their own thing, and so I feel like there's people that are, I can venture, I can do this, I can start my own business. What advice, you being a businessman, would you give that person?
Go for it, because at the end of the day, you don't know what you can get out of it. And to be honest with you, you might get into it saying, "Hey, I want to build lowriders for a living. That's what I want to do," and you might come across somebody who brings you something that ain't got nothing to do with lowriding, and all of a sudden it takes off, and you still get to do the lowriding, but you get to do it on the side. But now you have something that's completely different that you would have never even thought about. But I say that with the same statement of you'll never know until you try it.
Okay. So you hear that first right there. Go for it. And I agree. I mean, look, I'm doing these podcasts. You know how many people told me
Mm-hmm.
not to do this?
Hey, you never know. It might turn into something crazy.
And you know what? I like it because I get to meet more people, get
Mm-hmm.
to learn more. I'm telling you, today I learned a lot, and it keeps going.
Yeah.
Um, so I have these rapid fire questions that I ask, but
Okay.
but it's hard to ask because they're more really focused in on low riding. You okay with
Oh,
that?
that's cool.
Okay.
That's cool.
All right. Chrome or gold spokes?
Chrome
13 or 14?
13.
Okay. Stereo system. Would you Bluetooth it or modify the whole thing or keep it original?
I guess I would have to understand that question a little bit more.
So like you get okay, for example, you have this 58,
Mm-hmm.
58 back here. What would you put in that? Would you
For
keep it stock or you'll
OG, but a Bluetooth setup.
okay.
I like looking into a car and to kind of have that timeless aspect of
Okay. The Casper, I just did the podcast before,
it.
which I dropped today. He said the same thing. He has a 65 Impala fully engraved, and that's what he said. He goes, I Bluetooth the stereo. It's the original. It looks original, but it's
Mm-hmm.
Bluetooth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do a lot of them like that.
It's Sunday, and there's a car show, but there's also a cruise happening at the same time. What you doing?
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm in the street.
Hell yeah.
It's been many years, and we joke about it all the time. I haven't had a car in the street in years, but when I was in the street, it was the street. The shows are great. Don't get me wrong, they're great. But there's nothing like tipping in the street, banging that three, gas hopping. You got the little kid or the people on the side of the curb. You give them a 1-2 in the front. That you just made their day.
Hell yeah.
And at
I
the
can
end of the day,
relate.
when you dipping and you tipping, and you just got a smile on your face the whole time.
I agree. When we cruised
Yeah.
the Ave just last weekend, little kids, man, you just raise up, drop side to side. They're
Hmm.
like, oh my God.
Yeah, you like I said, you made their day, if not their year.
Yeah. And it's also, I feel like it's motivation too, because some people, they don't really know what they want to do. And then they see that and they're like, I want a lowrider
Hmm.
or I
And
want a hot rod,
and
you
that
know?
was one of the things for me, not just the flashy side of things when it came to low riding, but when I seen them cars jumping, oh, that I was like, okay, yeah, that's
I'm
what's
in.
up. Yeah, I'm in.
Plug me in. What was the first car you saw hop? The one that said, "Boom, plug me in."
You know, the crazy thing was the first car I saw, and it's gonna sound crazy, but I was in Boston with my grandparents, and they used to always have this little annual car show on the block where my grandfather lived. And we went out there and we were walking around, and this dude pulls up in this S10 Blazer, and it was two tone. It was like a candy brandy wine on top and cream on the bottom, with some 13s that were color matched. And like I said, this was years ago. This was like 96, 97. And he came around the intersection, and we're all standing there looking at this dually that had, one of the blow through stereo systems and all that. And it was like 15 or 16 speakers in the bed of this truck. And it was crazy back then, right?
Damn.
And he comes around the bend, and he was locked up in the rear and just gave it a 1-2 and gassed it, and took everybody's attention. Nobody was paying attention to nothing else on the street besides him. And after that, I was like, oh, man, what was that? And I'd always been around everybody racing. So you would think, oh, he must have a blower motor or something in there, and gassed in it, wheelied it. Nah, it was hydraulics. And it was just crazy. And don't get me wrong, like, it wasn't like he was doing no 70, 80 inches or nothing. He was probably at that time 20.
20.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell him 20 because I've been doing this.
But it looked good though. He took everybody's attention. He got mine too.
For me, so when I was a kid, I came here from LA, so I moved to Yakima, and one of the first cars I saw was a '64 Al Camino, yellow with all these crazy ass colors. And so, funny story is, these guys were trying to hit on my older sister, so they took me cruising. So I was like, well, "That's cool shit. Take me cruising," and because my car is pink, so I feel like that had a lot to do with it because it was yellow, had like blue, like a bright blue kind of pattern, and then like a pink, and now it's like it's what I do. I bright ass colors, and that's what got me into lowriding. Just a simple interaction like that. So I hear that. Switches or bags?
I'm hydraulics all the way. I'm hydraulics all the way. Now airbags have they play, but I'm hydraulics. If you've seen any of my vehicles, they're all on hydraulics. I probably have maybe a handful of airbag vehicles, but they were for the purpose.
Yeah. Okay. All right, man. So go ahead and give a shout out your Instagram if you want people to check it out.
Yeah, so if you want to check it out, it's SMI Customs. If you jump on Google and type in Switchman Inc., it'll bring up all of it from the Facebook to the Instagram. And there's even YouTube too, so you can check us all out.
So hit him up. Any modifications? As you can see, it's not just low riding. Anything else that he can get done, knock it out, rock it in. Sneaks View, Switchman Inc., Lamar, we're out.
Yes, sir.